Now, moving swiftly along, next up, we have a panel session on The Future is Green, Hyperscalers' Commitment to Sustainable Power. And to do this with us, we have Ken Haig, PhD, Head of Energy and Environmental Policy, Asia Pacific and Japan at Amazon Web Services. Megawati Key, Regional Director, Malaysia and Indonesia at Google Cloud. And Dr. Andrew Lau, Cloud Strategy and National Transformation Partnership Director at Microsoft Malaysia. This conversation will be led by Paul Yup, Technology Analyst at CLSA. All yours, Paul.
The tall one.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Okay, up next we have a very exciting session. So we have three distinguished guests on the stage with us. So collectively, the companies that they represent hold a 65% share of the cloud computing market globally. Demand for digital services has been growing rapidly. If we look at since 2010, the number of internet users has doubled. Internet traffic has grown about 25 times, and we expect this demand to continue if we think about new applications such as blockchain, AI, cloud gaming, and etc. As we stand, data centers today consume about 1% of electricity demand globally. But if we continue on this trajectory, there are some estimates that this figure could reach as high as 10% of global energy demand. But positively, there are ways to counter this as we move on to the title of our discussion today. The future is green, Hyperscalers' commitment to sustainable power. So as we move on, the first question is, does growth in data actually equal to growth in electricity consumption? Can you talk a bit about the energy needs to support these mega trends and also some of the methods you have employed to minimize energy usage? So maybe you can start with Ken, and then we go with Megawati and then Dr. Andrew.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. And in answer to your question about data and consumption, so let me say two things. That yes, there has been a growth in data. Second, that we're already seeing a decoupling, however, in terms of growth in data and decoupling from growth in emissions, right? And so that's a key development that I think is worth talking about. And the third point is really where that's coming from. Energy efficiency is one of the major drivers for that decoupling that I'm going to talk about. So just first on growth, you're absolutely right. If you look at the IEA data for the last decade, right, 1% consumption has actually stayed remarkably flat since 2010. Even as that 25 times increase in internet use that you talked about has increased exponentially. And a lot of that is due to the investments in energy efficiency by cloud service providers like the ones here on the stage today. Sure. We as Amazon have grown our business quite a bit since 2006 when we started. We're the most comprehensive, broadly adopted cloud provider today with more than 200 fully operational services. That's across 99 availability zones and more than 30 geographic regions across the world today, including here in Malaysia, where we have set up an investment in $6 billion US, 25.5 billion ringgit over the next 15 years to build out a region here. And we're excited because that provides not just the high availability and highly available and reliable internet and cloud-based services to our customers, it also helps provide the tools for reducing energy use. And it begins with the energy efficiency that we're investing in our business. So we've seen, for example, from the sustainability report that we just put out last week, that even as our business is growing, our total emissions are going down. So we're on the right trajectory. And we're really seeing, not just from the IEA report that I mentioned, but in our own operations, that energy efficiency is the kernel for all of this. And where we get our energy efficiency from, as you were mentioning, it starts from the ground up, like literally from chip to the grid. And so we, as Amazon, have invested in our own custom-built, purpose-built processors, for example. So if you look at the Graviton 3 processor, 60% more efficient than any available instance. Same for some of the AI/ML processors. You were mentioning AI/ML is one of the areas where you expect data use to grow. So this is true for the AWS Trainium chip, so 30% energy efficiency there. Inferentia, it's our ML inference chip. That is a 54% energy efficiency increase that you see there. The important thing here is that all of this results in cost savings for our customers too. And I think this is another area where if you look at, we had a research report, 451 research report that was done, finding that for the average customer moving their on-premises workloads into the cloud today, for AWS Cloud, it would be an immediate 80% reduction in terms of nearly 80% reduction for energy use associated with those workloads. And the reason why that's important is because it's helping customers save costs as well, right? The less energy they need to run their workloads, the less time they spend running the workloads in the cloud, the more they can save money. So helping our customers to move to the cloud, save energy, save once they're in the cloud. Another area that we work with is how do we maximize utilization rates, right? It's great to have the most efficient hardware, but how are you making sure that customers are using that most efficiently? So it's another area where we'll help our customers to try and optimize their workloads once they're in the cloud, even after taking advantage of the move to that environment.
Okay. Yeah, so hi everyone. Let's say hi first. I think it's important. So thank you so much for this opportunity. So my name is Mega. I represent for Google Cloud, Indonesia and Malaysia. Some fun fact is that the Mega actually means cloud. Okay, so you can remember me by that. So one of the things that I'm very proud to say, we talk about hyperscalers, talking about sustainable power, is what is important is that while we have a large amount of data that we have to organize, we have to manage, but the one thing that's important is that it doesn't mean that with the increase of data, there's a proportional growth in electricity usage. Actually, in fact, it's actually getting more efficient. The best thing about using cloud or hyperscalers, you're able to manage a lot of other workloads, but without having that increased electricity consumption. So one thing, especially right now, with the increase of data analytics, you mentioned AI, machine learning, Gen AI, which is the trending topic right now, is very, very important that all this compute power is made available without the increase of energy. So this is very critical, and because the consumption actually has slowed down very significantly. Why is that? Because we're using better technology, right? If you think about it, one of the things that we are doing in Google, which we are very proud of, because we run the world's biggest amount of information and data, we can reduce the energy of training the model by up to 100 times. And in fact, by an emission, by up to 1,000 times. So that you can see the kind of help that we're putting in clean energy. Other than that, Google data centers across the world, and like I said, we run the world's biggest information, is designed to be built to operate to maximize efficiency. So if you think about the biggest compute power, probably I would say it's Google, and you can see that all Google, hello? Hi. All Google owned and operated data center is more than 1.5 times as energy efficient as a typical enterprise data center. So if you think about it, if you put it on Google Cloud compared if you put it in your own data center, the energy consumption is much, much lower. And if you think about compared to 5 years ago, everyone, we now deliver more than 3 times as much computing power with the same amount of electrical power. So there's a lot of savings, not only in terms of energy, but of course in terms of cost. In addition to that, to support the next generation of fundamental advances in AI and machine learning, Gen AI and the latest technology that we are providing to the market, our latest TPU version 4 is proven to be one of the fastest and most efficient and most sustainable infrastructure hub in the world right now. So we are very, very excited to be part of this journey, especially with Malaysia. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew from Microsoft Malaysia. Just like my colleagues here, clearly from Microsoft perspective, we're also building a lot of data center infrastructure, right, all over the world. We have more than 60 plus what we call Azure regions, more than 100 availability zones, inclusive here in Malaysia as well. As announced a couple of years ago, we are also building our data centers here as well, here in Malaysia. So we are part of this team here that really encourages the growth of data. And Paul has said that it has grown 25 times. And at the same time, holding the responsibility to have it all very sustainable. And it's very pleased to hear that, in fact, the IEA's reporting is just like 1% of the world's electricity consumption, and that has been kept fairly stable. So how do we do this, right? How do we do this together as a team? I think the first thing is really looking upon ourselves, looking in the mirror. What can Microsoft do? Within Microsoft, we do have a vision of what we call 100-100-0, basically to take 100% of the electricity, 100% of the time with zero carbon. That's our vision going forward. And by 2030, we would be achieving that vision, okay? So there are a lot of things which are perhaps a little bit outside our control, especially how do you decarbonize the grid. We have heard this morning, a lot of good speakers talk about that, the technology involved, as well as the cost involved. But clearly, from Microsoft's perspective, we are moving towards that element. But there's also the other element, because who consumes this data together with us is our customers, right? So the next question falls back is, other than looking to ourselves, how do we help our customers actually do three things? Number one is to really report, okay, and record. And lastly, how do we help them reduce? And that's where we are also coming out with software. At the same time, we are also promoting clearly a lot of cloud services, right? Again, to the point, generative AI is going to consume huge amount of power. You have seen some of the servers already, pictures of InfiniBands, pictures of huge amount of servers stacking up around the world. And now, of course, the consumption of all these chips. So clearly, as we go by, there will be a reflection of some degree of high power consumption. But it's really, again, not about us. It's about us ourselves looking in the mirror with the vision of 100-100-0 as part of our responsibility, as well as also, very, very important, the other element of who is using this compute, which is our customers, and how we help them together with the services that we have got within cloud, within Azure, to help them report, reduce, as well as also ensure that they are also fulfilling their targets at net zero, which we have heard so many of them actually come out with that particular vision.
Thank you. So how does sustainability come in play when we discuss about energy? Can you share with us on some of your company's policies and targets with regards to the usage and demand of green energy?
Same order?
Yeah, same order.
Okay. So we think about sustainability in three ways. Sustainability of the cloud, in the cloud, and through the cloud. And so basically, sustainability of the cloud is all the investments that we were just talking about a second ago in energy efficiency. We have, as all of Amazon, a 2040 net zero carbon goal that we established as a part of the climate pledge. One of the ways that we're getting there, first off, is to not use the energy that we don't need to in the first place. The cleanest energy we can use is that which we don't in the first place, right? So energy efficiency is always the first thing we're looking at. The next thing that we've done, though, is we've invested in renewable energy. And I think this is a really exciting time to be here and hearing all of the investments that are being planned in Malaysia, because that's precisely what we're looking for. The remainder of our energy use, we're looking to renewable energy for. We have a 100% renewable energy goal that when I started a few years ago was a 2030 goal. We've since moved that up to 2025. We're on track to meet that. 90% of the way there globally. And we're continuing to do some of the biggest first renewable energy deals here in this part of the world, which has been historically a more challenging place to get renewable energy. So that includes things like the 210 megawatt deal that we negotiated in Indonesia, announced at the G20 last year with PLN there. Some of the largest corporate power purchase agreements have been done in Singapore to date, 62 megawatt deal with Sunseap and 18 megawatt deal with Semcor there. This year alone, we did our largest deals respectively in Japan, New Zealand, and India. So I'm excited at the progress we're making on those renewables purchases. We also have, when we talk about efficiency, it's important to think about water, right? So one thing you may not know, for data centers, when they're cooling, the most efficient way to cool data centers is to use evaporative cooling, right? And there's a trade-off. If you don't use water, it costs more energy. But if you use water, you want to make sure that, particularly in water-scarce regions, you're not using up a valuable resource. And so we've done a lot on water efficiency. We also are doing a lot to try and make sure that we're using non-drinking water to begin with, so recycled water. We use this in our data centers in Singapore, for example. Also, we have a program where we're giving back more to the communities in which we work than we're consuming. So last year, we set a goal to be water positive by 2030. And so what that means is we're going to be providing more water than we consume, right? One of the ways we're doing that is connecting communities to clean, safe, and hygienic water supply. And so we've worked with water.org, for example. We established a $10 million fund last year where we're going to connect 100 million people around the world to fresh drinking water. And we've started already doing those programs in places like India, Indonesia, where we've connected over 100,000 households to those kinds of programs. And then I would say one more thing that we're doing of the cloud is equipment reuse. You may not be aware, but there's a significant emissions associated with breaking down used equipment into parts, recycling, and disposing of those parts. We're trying to be very careful about the way that we design our equipment so that we're using less carbon in the equipment itself. We're also trying to make sure that we're reusing our equipment more than we can and repairing more than we used to. So we've extended the lifetime that we use for our equipment, and then we have a reuse and processing center that we've built here in Southeast Asia, and we're going to be expanding operations of those programs as well. So that's all sustainability of the cloud. In the cloud, I talked about how we're helping our customers to optimize their workloads, make sure that once they're in the cloud, they're using no more than they need to, right? Save costs, save energy, helps free up capacity for others. And then the last point is through the cloud. And this is one I think I'm most excited about. For most of our customers, their cloud use is only a very small part of their overall carbon footprint. But there's a lot that they can be using to drive greater efficiencies through the cloud. And so when I think about traditional energy companies like Total or Shell, these are companies that are trying to transform digitally, but also transform their businesses. And so we've worked with them not only to transform their operational efficiency through use of the cloud, but help grow their renewables businesses. We're actually one of Shell's biggest renewables customers in Europe today, for example. And GE, another good example. They have a lot of sensors in their wind turbines, you may not know, but using the cloud to optimize their wind production has been a huge boon in terms of how they get the best value out of those assets, and all of that's underpinned by the cloud. And we're very excited about partnership possibilities with Petronas, for example. We have a partnership with Petronas and Accenture, where we'll be working with them on digital transformation as well. So very excited about the opportunities for through the cloud transformation.
Okay, so for Google Cloud, we are working in two areas. So the first one is our internal use. So in 2017, what we did became the first major company that we were committed to make 100% of our annual global electricity used with renewable energy. 100%, which is actually very, very remarkable. So what we have continued to do so ever since. And today, now we are pursuing a net zero emission policy across the whole operation. So imagine the global operations that we are doing across the value chain that we have by 2030, and supported with a very, very big ambitious plan to run all our offices, all our campuses, everything, and data centers 24/7 on green energy. So this is a very big, ambitious goal that we are doing. So looking at the supply chain, the business operations, regulators, and all the end users that needs to be brought along in order to achieve this. So in addition to that, other than that, we also believe that Google has a very unique opportunity because we're serving a lot of users, like many of you. So many of you also use Google Maps. Many of you use Gmail and the rest of it. So what are we doing in this? So we've helped more than 1 billion users. Imagine that concurrently across the world, every day and every time, to make sustainable choices. For example, what we do is to offer eco-friendly routes. When you try to look at Google Maps, to make it faster to your destination, or you choose the flights. You can actually choose the flights which have less carbon-intensive flights. So you can do that also for Google flights. This offers energy efficiency scheduled with smart thermostat, where we have a Google Nest products. So those are the things that we're also doing to help a lot of our users to save on their carbon emission. So we also save on energy bills at the same time. So while we are helping our partners and customers to reduce their emissions, sustainability goals by advancing transformative technology for sustainability and also for climate action, cloud is really helping to transform the industry. So if you think about it, we made a lot of investment to get a cleaner cloud computing by making all our data centers amongst the most efficient in the world. In fact, our tagline to be the cleanest cloud anywhere. So by making this, we're able to help our customers in that process to use digital technology, whether it's AI, machine learning, making sure we have security, making sure that we have good analytics by monitoring and optimizing the cloud-related emissions. And we choose the best cleanest cloud that you can have. Thank you.
Yeah, so for Microsoft, clearly I've talked about on the carbon side, the 100-0 vision, right? We are also making our data centers by 2025 net zero. There's the other element that we talk about really is, again, how do we help our customers? And we have in Azure the vision to actually report for every service in Azure, that is the Microsoft Cloud, anytime of the day, the exact carbon footprint. And that's really important because if you look at what's happening here in Malaysia, right, there is a strong tendency with Dato and Bursa through the CSI program, right, the centralized reporting sustainability intelligence program. The question is really how do customers actually report that information? And it's really important. We all agree that going to cloud will be a very important factor because of the initiatives that all the hyperscalers are actually taking to make their cloud as green as possible. But more important also is how do the other people in the community, in the industry, also take advantage of that to report. And that's where, from our side, we are helping this a lot, right? Really to ensure that our customers record, report, and reduce through scientific ways, not just, hey, we talk about it. What are the scientific metrics? What are the science-based indexes that are currently being used? And how do we work with partners in the ecosystem? Of course, within the country that we are in, as well as globally. Now, from a renewable energy standpoint, just like what Ken said, we have been working also with the local partners. We are a big supporter of the CGPP program, which has been launched, and a fantastic initiative that allows really the purchase of carbon credits, so as to be able to reduce our footprint as well. We continue to work with the likes of Petronas Gentari, not only for themselves, but also globally. How do we work together with them? We have, in fact, worked with them in India as well, and now in Malaysia. We've also been actively participating in contributing our views towards cross-border type of renewable energy exchanges. How can Microsoft, and together with the other hyperscalers, right, given the fact that we are part of the carbon footprint, right, and a big part of it as well, and we know that's going to grow, how do we, together in the country, work together with all these partners and the community in order to promote the vision? Just like what Ken said, water is also a very important element in any sustainability journey. Carbon is well thought of, but in data centers, we use a huge amount of water. So from Microsoft perspective, this is where we want to make sure that we are so-called water positive by the year 2030, i.e. we put in more clean water into the system than taking water from the system by 2030. So that's also a very important parameter for us. The last one being waste, e-waste. Data centers, admittingly, do generate e-waste, right? Storages, servers sometimes don't work, and we have to recycle them. And we have to ensure that e-waste, especially in countries like us, where we are building data centers, right? We do not contribute to additional e-waste. There's already enough e-waste that we all are guilty of. We have handphones, we have a lot of handphones, old handphones at home. So we have a vision by 2030 as a company, we are zero waste, right? So that's how we look at things to ensure that, again, as a community, in the community that we are actually participating in as part of the digital infrastructure, to accelerate the transformation that is required for the economy, how do we ensure that also sustainability is a big part of what we actually promote on a daily basis for ourselves, looking inwards, as well as also with our partners and our customers.
Thank you very much. I believe we only have time for one last question. So to conclude the session, what are your remarks on Malaysia's NETR, and specifically how it maps to your company's objectives? And since most of your companies have a large footprint worldwide as well. What policies can we take from other countries, or what other policies would you like to see implemented to help your companies achieve your sustainability goals?
So I'll try to be quick with this one. I'm really excited by NATR today. I was thrilled to see everything that was discussed. Again, one of the reasons why we are excited about investing here, $6 billion over the next 15 years, is because we really want to provide some of those tools that are going to help that energy transition. And one of the ways we do that, I talked about sustainability of the cloud, right? We're going to be as efficient as possible, but we will need to purchase renewable energy for the remainder of our energy use. And so having access to renewable energy here is going to be really important. You mentioned the corporate green power pilot. We're watching this with interest as well. I would highlight your question about policies. Amazon has been the world's largest corporate purchaser of renewable energy around the world for the last 3 years running, over 20 gigawatts of renewable power enabled to date. 1 gigawatt of that was in India in the last year alone. And the key for India unlocking that kind of investment from Amazon was enabling virtual power purchase agreements. This is at the heart of the CGPP program. We're hoping that this will be a mechanism that's available beyond the pilot for the long term, because it's a very flexible way. It's a win-win-win, really, if you can get the assurance that the developers need to build those projects in the first place, get the consumers like us access to renewable power, but it's also a win for the grid, right? Because we're willing to pay for that renewable energy to be brought online. It doesn't cost to the taxpayers, but we need the means of making those direct investments. And then the last point is just the through the cloud part. I think there's a lot of exciting opportunity with all of the solar and all of the electric vehicles that were talked about today as well. We have utility customers who are doing just that, taking all of the solar panels and all of the data generated from smart inverters, thinking about what you can get from smart grid, who's charging their cars at what time of the day, where is the solar power most concentrated and abundant, and thinking about how can you match supply and demands. All of these kinds of programs can be run through the cloud. So we have utility customers in places like Australia, highest solar penetration in the world. And combining that data with electric vehicle consumption. Happy to talk about how we can do more, I think, on that front here as well. Thanks.
Okay. I think first of all, I would like to congratulate the Malaysian government for putting this. And we, from Google, we really welcome this National Energy Transition Roadmap. And we're very, very supportive because it actually also aligns with our company's goal. So in the Malaysian government efforts to move to 70% renewable energy by 2050. So that's really remarkable. So similarly, what Google does is we're very committed to our own sustainability goal of obtaining net zero emissions by 2030. Okay? With that, we also look forward to build a positive relationship with the government, with also with a lot of the enterprise customers here, as we've been since our operations in 2011. So to achieve this sustainability goal and realize the benefits of the digital economy, we actually would like to give some recommendation. We recommend that the Malaysian government and enterprise customers to work with us to pursue a cloud-first policy. Because a cloud-first policy, in addition to building a digital economy in Malaysia, it actually helps to help not only the economy, but to help the green energy agenda that you have. Because we're trying to consolidate and provide that clean energy for the country, not only for Malaysia, but across the region. If I can share an example that we are doing in different countries across the region, we're helping EVs, and we've plot out where are the locations that we need for the recharging station. And we combine our Google Analytics and Google Map. And it's not only one country, because a lot of the other countries are putting in incentives to drive the EV adoption. So we'll be very happy to work with Malaysia in different countries to drive that even further, because this is very important for our economy and also for our climate. Not only, in addition, I'd like to add is that in terms of what we call the power usage effectiveness, which is PUE, for Google itself, our data center is 1.1 times, which is actually the lowest in the industry. A typical enterprise data center is anywhere from 1.5 to 1.6. So while we're trying to consolidate the power electricity usage, we're able to drive also a lot of computing power for your digital transformation journey. And in addition to that, you can see a lot of, like I said earlier, the Gen AI transformation, but I want to make sure that this is provided, delivered with the cleanest energy that's possible, and hopefully with Google Cloud. Thank you.
Yeah, like my colleagues here, tremendously excited about the announcement today, right, on the transition plan, and congratulations to the Malaysian government.
Yes.
As a Malaysian myself, working here for last 20 years, very excited to do that, also part of the Microsoft community, where we are building data centers, and clearly it aligns very, very well in what we are actually doing in our own vision as a company, as well as also vision for the country. And having this plan in place is something which is really, really exciting. Coming to the point of learning from the other countries, yes, indeed, we are learning from the other countries. There are some countries who are fortunate enough where they can, at least the data centers there from Microsoft, actually use 100% renewable energy, right? And that's because they've got abundance of renewable energy in that particular country. And this is really great. So how do we learn from them? How do we also infuse technology, things like fluid immersion, servers in water today, right? Or special fluids, shouldn't call them water, special fluids, right? Where they are actually cooled as they process. And it's really, really important. And again, we are also bringing that kind of technology, working together with Malaysian companies, right? Working together with Malaysian companies. And these are new things that are actually coming into the country. As part of the ecosystem, the important thing for us is, while we are learning from the other countries, how do we build the ecosystem? And there's tremendous talent in this country, even in renewables. I myself get involved in some of the social entrepreneur aspect, where they are thinking about very ambitious and very creative ways of actually building a sustainable Malaysia. This falls in very nicely with what we do in part of our data center build, and of course, bringing digitization, and as well as also bringing the data center to Malaysia. So I think the program itself is great. We are also wanting to help our customers. We are also trying to work together with the community on how we can promote that vision, right? As well as also align it to Microsoft, learning from abroad, as well as also participating in many of the local programs that are being put forward, the national programs, CGPP being one of them. How do we also help renewable energy startups, renewable energy coming up? And that's why you see from Microsoft, we are very supportive of new programs, i.e. not just existing RE in the system, but new RE that is pumping into the system. And we are in fact very supportive and really looking for this kind of initiatives so that we can work together with these generators and we as an off-taker as we build the digital infrastructure here in Malaysia.
On that note, thank you very much for participating, and all the best for the future. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, panelists. If you could step forward for a quick group photograph. Thank you.